Welcome into another Dynasty Rookie Profile, where today we're looking at running back Ray Davis out of Kentucky. And if this is the first time you're watching one of these videos that I've made, there's several others out there of some receivers and running backs. But the point of this is to dive deep into the 2024 NFL rookie class for the purpose of your Dynasty rookie drafts, to find the hidden gems for your Dynasty rookie draft, the third-round picks, the fourth-round picks, the Puka Nakuas, the Tank Dells, trying to find some players that you can maybe hit on. If you hit on just one player drafted in the third or fourth round, it just does wonders for your Dynasty team. So, we're looking at these players that are not going to be going maybe in day one or even in day two, maybe day three type of players that, there's some promising, intriguing numbers, whether it's the tape, whether it's the underlying numbers, whether it's the combine numbers. There's just some promising things to look at. And again, today we're looking at Ray Davis. And I know there's a lot being said about this running back draft class, that it's really, really bad. I don't really see it as bad as everyone else. Now, it's not top heavy. There's no Bijan, there's no Jahmyr Gibbs, but there's a lot of solid players, in my opinion, that are coming out. And, the running back landscape in the NFL, there's a lot of old players that are either over the hill or just at that age where they're over the hill. And we need some replenishment of young players to come in. And so this could be the draft class where we just get a lot of solid players that are good for a couple years. So today, again, we're looking at Ray Davis. We see his measurements. He measured in at 5'8", 211. By the way, it is March 7th. So the combine is over. Free agency hasn't started yet. But, he measured in at 5'8", 211. Okay weight size. We want to see him a little bit bigger, but it's not a huge deal. I think 5'8", 5'9" is okay for a running back. Look at his 2023 numbers. He had 200 carries, over 1,100 yards, 14 touchdowns to go along with 33 catches, over 300 receiving yards. And I forgot to put it on here, but he had 7 receiving touchdowns as well. So over 20 total touchdowns. And 33 catches and over 300 yards is really good for a college running back. I was just looking it up right now. 33 catches, I think, puts him in the top 20 in all of FBS. And 323 yards puts him in the top 12 in receiving yards for running back. So really good numbers is what we're seeing there from receiving. He's kind of projected as a day 3 pick, which, again, it probably translates to a third or fourth round Dynasty rookie draft. Combine, he was pretty solid in the combine. Nothing amazing. Nothing jumped off the page. He ran a low 4.5 in the low 4.5s. His 10-yard split, which is becoming more and more increasingly more important in terms of how teams are evaluating players, because especially for running backs, not a lot of plays go 40 yards. Very few times do you have a 40-yard run or longer, right? Maybe a handful every year. A lot more plays go for 10 yards, so they want to see that initial burst. 1.56 is fine. It's not amazing. Anything below 1.55, in my opinion, is starting to get into elite territory, are really, really good numbers. And then obviously the lower you get, the better. 1.56, 1.57 is right around where you want to be at worst, in my opinion. Anything higher than that, it's kind of a little concerning. So 1.56 is fine. His broad jump, 119, is fine. All these numbers, just fine. Again, 4.51 is good for a running back. I actually went back and looked at all the fantasy relevant running backs, so good running backs in the NFL over the last about 10 years or so. And if you average out their 40-yard times, it actually comes out to 4.51. You would think it would be higher, right? We put so much emphasis on speed, but the average running back, the average 40-yard time for a fantasy relevant running back is 4.51. So I'm fine with him running in the low 4.5s. Let's jump over here to his production in college. Career dominator for running backs. This is the percentage of your team's total offense, passing yards or receiving yards and rushing yards. In his career, he's at 27%, which is he had a 5-year career. He missed time. What was it? I believe in 2020, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he didn't do, 2021, I think he got hurt or he missed time at Vanderbilt. So that's not included. But so 4 of his years combined for 27% of his team's total offense. Now he played on 3 teams, Temple, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky. But 27% is really, really good. Anything 25% or higher is really, really good. Again, going back and looking at all the fantasy relevant running backs, you want to be at worst 15% of your team's total offense in your college career. But really, you want to be above 25%. The average number for all fantasy relevant running backs, if you average it out, is 25%. Very few are below 15%. So 27%, he was just super productive in college. Single season high, 41% last year of Kentucky's offense went through Ray Davis, who, by the way, in a lot of databases will be called Raymond Davis. I think that's his legal name or his full name. But 41% of Kentucky's offense is amazing. That's a really, really good number to see. His breakout age of 19 is, again, what we want to see. We want to see 20 or younger. We want to see a player who's 18, 19, 20 years old carrying their team's offense, right? It's much more impressive than a 23-year-old doing it. And then his PFF grade, his best PFF rushing grade was 91.4, one of the best in this draft class. So really good production in college, which is always good to see, right? You want to see production. Combine is one thing, but if you're not producing, it's like, well, what does it even mean, right? We look at some of the more advanced metrics. He's one of the few running backs in this draft class who's above the threshold that I want to see for both elusive rating and breakaway percentage. His elusive rating is 96.6, not the highest, but it's above that threshold. We want to see high 90s or above. Anything over 100, 120, 130 is really good. And elusive rating is, are you breaking tackles? How often are you breaking tackles in the run and passing game? And then breakaway percentage. Breakaway percentage at 44.7. That means almost 45% of his runs went for 15 yards or more. Again, we want to see this number north of 40%. And obviously anything at or above 50% is really, really good. 45% almost is, I think, the third or fourth highest in this draft class. So really good to see that. So one of the few running backs that's both not only breaking tackles, but he's also breaking away runs, breaking off runs of 15 yards or more. We look up here, his yards per contact, 751 yards. That comes out to 3.81 yards after contact. Yards after contact per attempt, which is good, not great. It's above average. That's why his elusive rating is above average. He forced 51 missed tackles forced, in college last year. And then he was more of a zone runner than a gap runner. So he possibly fits more of a zone rushing scheme, which a lot more teams are going towards anyways, a zone rushing scheme. So a lot of good underlying numbers here for Ray Davis. In terms of what I see on the tape is just, I see a guy who is super tough, breaks tackles. He's a powerful runner, never goes down at first contact. He has good vision, and you need good vision in a zone running scheme because you're kind of following the offensive line and you find the hole that's opening up. So solid pass catcher, good route runner. Again, is good through the between the tackles. I think he's pretty versatile. He's obviously played on 3 different teams, Temple, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky, and he's produced at every single school. So that's kind of cool to see. We're going to see that more often with players being able to switch teams and not have the penalty of sitting out for a year. It's nice to see a player go to 3 different schools with potentially 3 different run schemes and produce at every school. So he was just super productive in college, which I love to see. So again, things I love to see: production. His underlying metrics of his elusive rating and breakaway percentage is really good. His yards per route run, which I didn't even mention, at 1.28 is good, especially for this draft class. I think I want to say it's in the top 5 for this draft class, yards per route run at 1.28. So it's a solid number. It's not elite stuff, but it's a really solid number to where, I'm not going to be surprised if he catches 40 passes in the NFL. That's if he gets a full-time role. His ability on the field to be that tough runner. He's more of a power runner than he is an elusive runner, which, again, you can argue that it's more valuable to be a elusive runner in the NFL because everyone's bigger, faster, stronger in the NFL, which I wouldn't argue with necessarily, but I just think he's going to find himself on a team. He's going to have a role. He's going to be a change of pace back, or, not a change of pace, but, just a solid kind of plug and play type of back, an RB2 that can come in and take 8 to 10 carries. And if he gets his opportunity as the guy because the number one starter goes down. I think he's just going to put up solid numbers, solid fantasy numbers, solid production. Now, some things that I'm a little bit concerned about. One, it's the big elephant in the room is his age. He's 24 years old, which is pretty old for a running back, especially coming out of college. Now we're seeing that more because of the COVID year, and it kind of just messed things up. He started playing before COVID, so he's been in college since 2019, which is a long time. So 24 years old, teams they're gonna dock him for that. The way I look at it with running backs, though, it's like, if you're only, running backs lifespans are like 3 to 5 years anyways. So it's like, if you get this guy in the 5th round and he gives you 3 good years as a running back, as your RB1 or whatever he becomes, why does it really matter if he's 24? It's like, well, you're probably going to move on when he's 27, 28 anyway. So I would be happy as a team with that, but he probably goes day 3 because of it. Teams really do put a lot of value into that. His breakaway speed is not completely there. He's not going to necessarily run for 70 yards and outrun everybody. He's just a little bit limited in terms of his big play ability he does have almost 45%, 15 yards or more. I wonder what that number is if you bump it to like 20 or 25. It probably drops a lot. I saw a lot of like 15-yard runs, but not necessarily a lot of 30 or 40, which again doesn't happen as much in the NFL anyways. His pass protection is pretty bad. I'm not going to lie. He's not great in pass protection. He needs to improve there, and I think he can, but he needs to. So that's it. That's an issue as well. So I like the idea. There's enough here for me to say on film and on the underlying numbers and from his combine and his production in college. There's enough that's kind of all coming together. Just overall solid at the combine, really good production in college, good underlying numbers. All of that plus what I saw on film coming together. I'm going to take a chance on Ray Davis in some dynasty rookie drafts in the 4th round, maybe if he falls there. Obviously, it's going to depend on where he goes. If he doesn't get drafted, then that's going to change things. If he goes day 3, round 5 or 6, and he goes to a team where, I can see a path for him becoming the lead back even without injury, I'm going to take a shot on him because I think he could just be a solid fantasy player, a top 24 running back, maybe for a year if he gets the opportunity. So is he going to get the opportunity? That's not guaranteed, but he could get the opportunity from injury, or he could just win a job. I wouldn't be surprised if he did win a job. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't win a job. So just a guy to keep an eye on, watch where he goes. Just overall, go and watch some of his game film. He does look good. One last thing I forgot to mention of something I'm a little bit concerned about was just a little bit, he was kind of inconsistent in college, in my opinion. If you actually look at his game log, he had over 1,100 rushing yards. But you look at his game log, I think over 400 of that came in 2 games. He had almost a 300-yard rushing game against Florida, 280 to be exact. And then he had a 130-yard rushing game against Missouri. So you put those two numbers together, over 400 of his yards. So over a third of his yards was that, closer to like 35% of his yards came in those 2 games. So he had a lot of games of 50, or several games of 50, 60, 70 yards. We'd like to see a little bit more consistency. So that is another thing that's concerning as well. But keep an eye on Ray Davis or Raymond Davis. See where he goes. He could be a sneaky pick. I always like to find value in running backs, those late 3rd, 4th round picks. Get your receivers in the beginning and take a stab at these running backs, because honestly, if they're going to be on a team, they're going to have some value. So that's all I have for you guys today. We'll be back with more of these Dynasty rookie profiles, breaking down the NFL rookie class. As always, like and subscribe for more Dynasty content. I'll catch you guys next time.